I've been asked to address slowly over time what IKYA is, as best we can. And we'll probably invite some guest students to also join in that conversation over time. And the reason is that what IKYA is not culturally very understandable for, especially Norway maybe, but the whole Western world. But Norway in particular is extremely sort of unspiritual and unreligious, and the tradition of an enlightened consciousness in human form is completely foreign to Norwegians. Talk to someone in India and they understand exactly what you're talking about. They don't have any hesitation, any problem with it. But here in Norway, our defenses go up and we're like, oh, wait a minute, that's just a guy saying he's enlightened, right? So what is IKYA? We talk about IKYA as a consciousness, specifically to assist the mind to go past the person, to go past the human being who has to sit here, because all consciousness has to incarnate in some one way or another to interact with us, right? So it's, we talk about IKYA as a consciousness also to assist in starting to understand what it means when these teachings work with us, they work in our lives, because that consciousness can be present everywhere, all the time, for each and every one of us. And actually, as soon as we engage with IKYA as a spiritual student, that consciousness has a responsibility for our journey. And IKYA talks and kind of jokes a little bit that spiritual beings have way more invested in our spiritual growth than we do in this human form. Well, that's reflective of that. When you're at that level of consciousness and enlightenment, you have a responsibility for everything. And it's, my mind kind of goes, explodes when I try to imagine what it's like, because I can't even imagine or manage the plants, the house plants in my home. They get bugs. I can't even get them to thrive always. Like, how would I manage an entire universe? It seems kind of crazy. But it is useful for us to try, at least, to put words to it and to discuss with each other about what it means to be studying with a consciousness in the form of a teacher. What does it really mean? One example that I want to start with tonight, and I'm going to invite at least one, if not several students to talk more about it, is what is, for example, an IKYA therapy session? Because IKYA therapy is actually the presence of the IKYA consciousness with the assistance of a channel of an IKYA therapist, working directly with the anatomy of your consciousness. And what does that mean then, that, like, wait a minute, I thought I was going to the therapist. Like, yes, you are. The therapist is there to facilitate. But the primary sort of function and assistance, in a way, is coming through the consciousness being present and being facilitated, being available in a different way to you when a therapist is present to do their part, to be a channel, to in a way give their color to that experience. And in that way, to my understanding, it's different than any other therapy on the planet, because every other therapy is primarily about the therapist doing what the therapist can do. But in this case, every IKYA therapist is fully assisted by the IKYA consciousness. So it's extremely unique. Don't hesitate to ask your IKYA therapist about what it's like to work with IKYA as a consciousness in that situation, because it is, in my mind at least, it's a real fundamental part of the potential of working with IKYA as a spiritual teacher and as a consciousness, is to actively try to relate to what IKYA actually is. To not allow yourself to be lured into the human mind's version, oh, it's just got to be a guy saying stuff. If you allow yourself to do that, you are missing 99.99% of what's actually happening. The guy sitting here is just, it's like what they talk about, the meat puppet, right? It's got to be here, it's got to interact with us, but the consciousness is so much more than that. So it's just a starting point. We've recognized that, it's important for us as we mature in this study with IKYA that we directly address some of these points where the human, where the ego, where the mind can really struggle to connect fully with what IKYA has to offer. And this is just a starting point. If you guys have any specific questions, don't hesitate to ask both tonight in the question and answer session, but also to send questions in the Facebook group. You can send them on email to me. We can try to move this conversation out into the community to really engage each other in it as well. Okay, good.